Hello everyone, thank you for coming to my channel and watching my videos. Today I will show you how to make an app using Firebase. You will need Firebase authentication, Firebase Firestore database, and a storage. You need to activate all those for this app to work. So before we get started, I will show you guys how the app works. So the app will look something like this when you first launch the app. It will have a home page like this, and this is a journal app where you can post things and then look at them later. So here, this is a home page, and you would press get started, and you either can log in or create an account. We're not going to worry about logging in right now. We're just going to set up the create account first, and we'll do the other one in the next video. So you create your account by entering your username like that, or whatever, email, password, and log in. Once you register, let me see if this password did not match. Let me try that again. Alright. Once you register, you should see in Firebase that everything has been added to your database. So the homepage looks something like this. We will build more on this later. So here you can see, if I refresh my authentication, you should see the new account we added with email and user ID all stored in here. Firebase allows you to have authentication system in the back end that you can use to store user information. And then the Firestore database is what we'll use to store a collection of certain things like users. For example, here, this is users I just created. And then the storage will be used to store files like images and videos. Alright, so now I'm going to walk you through how to build this app to get to this point. So let me close this and walk you through it. If you haven't done so already, what you want to do is go to File, New. After you open your Android project, of course, your Android Studio, File, New Project, and then just click an empty, no activity project. Press Next, and name your application whatever you want it here for this project, and pick Java for your language. Then press Finish. When you do that, you should have something like this where you'll have a main here, but you won't have all this yet. This you will have to create later. You will have a main activity, and inside your layout you will have another main activity XML. This represents your main activity. So for the main activity, what I did was I created a simple layout that looks like that. Let me show you. I'll close this like this, and make sure you're in you'll probably see something like this or like this, but make sure you're in this view where you can see both the design view and the XML view. In Android Studio, you can build your UI using drag and drop in the design view, or you can build them using code in XML right here. So in my case, I have a simple linear layout here with a text view, and I call that my journal. Relative layout with a card view inside, and then a button right here, and with an ID get started button. And then in my main activity.java, this is where I create a button object and then instantiate that object here, connected object to the view, and then I set listener to that object just like this. And then inside the onClick listener, I would start activity, meaning I will create an intent and move user to the next page, which is a login activity page when they click on get started. So in your case, you will not have login activity yet. So what you want to do is right click here, new activity, and just create empty views activity like this, and name this login activity, and then press finish. When you press finish, you should have this file here and this file here. So go to your login activity.xml, and you will have a basic XML file here, and change this top part to linear layout like I have here, and then add a progress bar. You will not see the progress bar right now because I set it to invisible, but if I set to visible, you can kind of see where it's located within the layout. And then you want your another linear layout, And inside that, you want to add a autocomplete text view, which is for your email. And for your password, just put edit text, and you'll have a button, a text, and another button here for your login and create account. And give them a corresponding ID, like so you can identify them later in your code. Then let's go back to our login activity here. Here I have two buttons, login button and create button, that the user will interact with, that will take users to different pages and log, and of course one will log the user in and one will create the account. Right now we're just going to focus on the create account button. So here what we do is we connect those buttons to the UI that we create in the login activity, and then we're going to set on-click listener for the create account button. In this case, when the users click on create account, we're just going to take them to this create account activity. So what you want to do now is, now that you have your login activity and your login activity XML, you want to do another one, the same thing you did before. Go to new activity, create empty views activity, and name this one just like I have it here, create account activity. Then press finish. Then you will have this and you will have this, just pretty much doing the same thing we did before. Let's go inside your activity, create account XML, and then let's make our UI like this. So here I have a linear layout like so, and inside that I have a progress bar which is set to gone, but I'm gonna make it visible so you guys can see, just like that. And then we'll have autocomplete text view here and here. If you want to make this faster, you can copy and paste the one from your login activity into your activity create account, and just edit the UI to, so you have this, and this, and a button. So if you go down here, I have a button called register button for registering the account. Let me set this back to gone because we don't want that to appear unless the user press register account. And same thing in login, I don't think I want that visible just yet, just like that. Alright, so in our create account activity, we have all this Firebase stuff, right? But where do you get those Firebase stuff? We haven't done anything yet. For you, what you want to do is, if you go to tool here and go to Firebase, you will see something like this, right? Or you can connect, we can do our many kind of thing. The Firestore, this is what we will be using. And location, this is also another thing that we will be using. And I think we're using one more, storage for Firebase. This is what we'll be using. So to get started, you just go to let me go back home here so you can see what it looks like. So you would go to Firebase home like this, and make sure you log in with your email like I have here, my Gmail account, and then simply press add new project. When you add new project, it's going to ask you some instruction like this: enter your project name, then press continue, and it's going to give you a project ID, unique ID for your project. I already did that, so once you do that, it's going to look something like this, right? And here, just click add, click on the Android icon to add your project. I already have mine here, but I'm going to walk you through what happened when you do that. The first thing you want to do is find your Android package name, and for you, that's pretty simple. Go into your app, your Gradle on the app level, and then just go up here, and you'll see your app ID. This is what you will be pasting into there, and then after that, it's going to create a JSON Google Service file for you, which you will put in your app level right here. So like mine, if you go here, you can see that in my app level, show you project app level, you can see right there, I already added right there. So for you, you simply just move that file there after you download it. And next, what you want to do is make sure you go into your root project level Gradle file, which is let me go to Android so you can see it better. Here is your project file. So go here, and you want to add this dependency here for your plugin, just like I did over here for mine. And then you can scroll down to your Gradle and app level, which is here. It says app level here. go here. Under plugin, you would add this thing right here, Google Services plugin, like I did here. And then scroll to your dependency here and add this. This is a new thing that they have. It's called Firebase BOM. And if you add this, you can, it says here, add dependencies for Firebase products you want to use. When using BOM, don't specify versions in Firebase dependencies. So whatever you use from Firebase, like Google Firebase Analytics or Firebase Authentication or Firebase Firestore, you don't have to specify the version number if you are using the Firebase BOM. So in my case, because I used the Firebase BOM up here, when I added all these services from Firebase, I don't need to add the version number also. So here I have Analytics, Authentication, Storage, and Firestore for the thing I'm going to be using in my app. I also took the liberty to add the card view dependency so I can use card view in my XML file. If you don't add this, you will not be able to, let me show you. You will not be able to add card view in your layout. Here in my main activity, I use a card view to display that little text there. If you did not add that dependencies in your Gradle file here, you would not be able to access those card view. So after you do that, what you want to do is, after you add all this, you want to sync the file. So if you made any changes in your Gradle file like I did here, it's going to ask you to sync now, and just press sync now, and then once that's done, it's going to download all those libraries for you. So then once this is done, you will have your project. Then basically just select your project, and then from there you can start adding things like authentication, Firestore database, and storage. If you don't have that already, you go into build, click authentication to make it pop up here, and then click on storage, and all that will pop up there. You can also make it visible by just doing that, and to make it visible again, just go there like that. And for authentication, just click on it and click get started, and for the sign method, just pick email and password and press finish and enable it, just like I did here. I already did it, so I'm not going to do it. If you want to add a new one, you would just simply click this and pick one, and then follow the instruction. I already picked email and password, as you can see here, so I don't need to do that. And that's it for the authentication. And for storage, just pretty much press get started, and then you're ready. It's the instruction pretty straightforward, so you don't have, it's not that hard to do really. And same thing for database storage. Right now I have a collection here because I created one when I run the project earlier, but we will delete this for now just so it's out the way. Delete that, and delete this user to the app. Delete the account. Boom, and that's done. Alright, so once you have this and this and this set up, you can then begin coding your app. Alright, that right here, right? This is where we were earlier. When the user create account, we want to be able to have all this stuff. Once you implement all those dependencies in your Gradle app level, you should be able to access Firebase auth, Firebase auth state listener, and Firebase user. So create the private variables here like this, and then just name it like this. And then you want to also create the things to represent your UI. For example, we have a progress bar object, and then we have autocomplete text view, and then we have two of that, and we have two edit text for your password and confirm password, and lastly we have a button, right? After you did all this, you can then go to your onCreate method here. Inside your onCreate, this is what happens. This gets launched once when the app when this activity pops up. So here, connect all your UI with the thing you create up here, the object, like the progress bar object, the autocomplete object. Connect that with the UI in your create account activity XML, because you give them ID, right? Like for example, this is your ID for your progress bar. In your create account, you would just pretty much assign that progress bar to that. You would reference that object. You would reference that UI, in XML using the ID, and the progress bar would point to that. And then here we would instantiate our Facebook auth and just create that instance, a new instance of that. And for listener, we'll create a new listener here. And then here, what we're listening for is if the user the user authentication state, right? We want to get the current user and store here. If the user is null, we know that users are already logged in, else there's no user login. And then for the registration button, when the user click register, we of course want to register the button, right? So we'll create this method that takes the email string, the password string, and the confirm password string, right? And also username's text string, because we want to store, keep track of our user and also in our database, right? So before we do that, we're going to walk through the difference between onCreate and onStart. Here I create a simple comment here so you can read all about it. It says here, onCreate is a call when the activity is first created and is mainly used for one-time setup. OnStart is called when the activity is about to become visible and is suitable for tasks that should be performed every time the activity is brought into view. So with that being said, it's an OnStart. We want to get the current user and then listen to the state of the user authentication. If the user is logged in and logged out, we want to listen to that, right? So we do Firebase auth.add auth.listener and add the auth.listener object here. And that's what we want to do every time the page is brought up, so we can decide where to take the user. If the user is no longer logged in, we can take them to the sign out page where they can log back in. Us will keep them, around. And then in my create account method here, I simply have 1, 2, 3, 4 string object that it will take, and then this is what we pass up here from our UI. Whatever the user enter into our UI up here, we will take all this and then use that to create an account for the user. So back in my create account method here, as you can see here, I'm taking that and I'm checking this. I'm checking for any empty activity, empty field. So we don't want a field to be empty, right? We don't want user to have empty email, empty password, empty confirm password, empty username. We want to be able to check those things, all right? So after all that, let's say all those things are not empty. We want to make sure the password matches, right? The confirm password and the password must match, just like when you sign up for most things nowadays, you have to do that. When the user press login, you also want to set the progress bar to visible to let the user know that, okay, something's happening, right? And then once that is done, what you want to do is just do Firebase authentication, and then you use that to call the method create with email and password, and enter the email and password, and then add on complete listener here. When you do that, you will have something like this, where you would override the onComplete method with a task object here, and you want to do is check if the task is successful. So this, if it's successful, it means that you will register the user email and password successfully, and then you can do further things here. If not successful, what you want to do is just make the progress bar invisible, make it disappear, and then say error registering user email and password, right here. So back to this method, right? OnComplete, if it's successful, we want to do another thing. So after registering the user with email and password, we also want to be able to go to our database and faster and store a collection of users, right? So this way we can keep track of our users. So here, set the current user to the current user of the newly authenticated user, and then make sure the current user cannot be null by doing assert current user cannot be equal null, and create a string object here to store the user ID, the current user ID. And we will need to create a map here before we can store the user in our collection, right? So here you have a map of string and string. You have 2 string here called user object as a new hash map, and then we will put user ID here and the username here, just like that. And then to add user object to collection, we simply use collection reference. If you look back up here, our collection reference create a collection called users. So later when we add the user to our database file store, we will see a collection here called user. So let me see, where was I? Alright, then just when you have the collection reference, you can just do add user object and then add on listener to that. When you add on listener to that, it will check if you have successfully added the user to the collection here. Here, when you get this callback, it just says user have been added to the collection successfully. But what we want to do is want to check if user is in the user collection just to be safe, right? So you can use the document reference here and call get and then add on a complete listener. And what that does is that it will tell you if the user has been added to the database, right? It will give you a task and you can check on that task. If task results exist, then you'll know that the user exists, right? So when the user exists, what you want to do is, that means we finished registering the user to the authentication system in Firestore, and we also finished storing the user in the user collection, right? That's what that means once we get to here. So here you can just make the progress bar invisible, and from there, once that's done, you want to take user to your post journal activity, which we haven't created yet. For you haven't created, and to send those new data to the next activity, what we normally do is we create an intent like this. Then inside the intent, we put extra like username, ID, whatever data we want to pass the next activity, and we start the activity, right? Else, if we don't get the user added in there, we can just say make the progress bar invisible, meaning we failed the authentication process, the adding user to the collection process. And I'm gonna scroll further down so you can see what the code looks like right here. Just like that. That's pretty much what our create user account does for us. So now let's look at your post journal activity. Again, the same thing. Go to layout, new activity, create empty views activity, and name it post journal activity, and then press finish. Once that's done, you will get something like this. You will get a file, Java file, like this, post journal activity. Then you will get an XML file called post activity post journal. Open your activity post journal file and add the simple layout like this. Here I have a linear layout, text view that says welcome, and then another text view that will just simply display the user's name and user ID. Here you can leave it blank. I just put random string on there. So let's go to your post journal activity Java file here. And here what I did was I just simply create a text view that I will need to display the user username and ID later. Alright, so what happened here is I'm creating a text view object, and then I'm connecting it, where is it? I'm connecting it right here. And to get those things passed to this activity from the create account activity, as you can see here, we put extra into the intent, and then we pass that to the post journal activity when we start the intent, right? So now when you go here to extract those data, you simply create a bundle like this and just set it to equal intent, get intent, get extras, and we create inside. We want to check if bundle is not null, right? If bundle is not null, means we have something passed to us. So then we create a string object called username and ID, and you can access bundle, get string, and use the key username and ID just like we put in here to access those information that we sent over. And then change the text view text to username and ID to ID. So this is your app. So press get started. We're not gonna worry about login right now, we'll work on that later. Press create account and enter username. It could be whatever you want it to be. An email. Password. Just like that, and then register account. As you can see, it says welcome, username, whatever that is, and then this is your user ID, just like that, all that. And if you go here, you should see in authentication your email for the users that has been stored. This is done by Firebase authentication. It stores the authentication information right here under authentication, and then in the Firebase under the Firestore database, you should see a collection called users, because we created a collection reference called user earlier, and then we store a map of user ID and with the user ID and username with the username, right? So every time we register a user, we will have authentication here store their email and password under here, and then we would have also a user added to here. Right here we have users, and then a document, a user document. With Firebase, if you don't specify the document title, it will create one for you, and this is like a unique ID to identify the user. So this is user document, and this is the field for that user.